Down the road. I am Steve Sapato. My motto is the most famous, unfamous speaker in America and damn fine business coach. What I like to tell people is that I can help anybody in any business. I work with $1 million or under, typically, and I help them create at least a 25% increase in their business every year that I work with them. That's been proven out time after time. But I'm going to talk today about speaking. One of the greatest challenges I think most of us have is our ability to speak, to communicate effectively. So what I mean by that is most of the time we get up and in networking groups, we talk. Hey, I'm Steve Sapato. I do this, I do that. And if you're going to get up and speak to people, what you want to do is ask them questions, you want to get involved. I call it when you get up to speak. So if you're going to speak in front of an organization for 10, 15, 20 minutes, I say you want to use your experiences with their memories. So let me give you an example of that, right? How many people here remember growing up? When you were 9, 10, 12 years old, did you have a time that you had to be back in the yard or the house?
The street lights.
Right? When the street lights went on, see? When the street lights went
Mom
on. When mom screamed. Anybody else? Right? 6 o'clock was the time. But see, we all have those times. I remember running, I was somewhere where I shouldn't have been, a couple blocks away, right? The street lights came on. I chose to ignore it because, of course, there was a girl involved. You know? And then I hear my dad's whistle from a block and a half away. He could do one of these, you know, and whistle so loud. Block and a half away, I just looked at the girl and went, oh. Didn't even say gotta go. Just took off on the dead run. Probably 12 years old. Running in the dark, through backyards, go hammering through these backyards, and all of a sudden, there's a picnic table. Oh. Caught me right about here, right? At a dead full run, bam! My head hits the table, I come up. Did I pause? Not a moment. My dad had whistled. That's danger right there. Took off running and ended up back at the house. Of course, it was like an hour later, my mom looked at me across the dinner table and says, what happened to your head? Big red spot right there. Like I didn't break my nose, right? But when we talk about involving people, we remember the memories. I used my story, I invoked your memories. And that's what we want to do when we talk to our audience. Anytime you do a speech, anytime you do a talk, how many people in here run meetings? Couple, all right? If you're doing an office meeting, or how many of you had a boring office meeting that somebody else was running? Oh, is that painful or what? What do you do? Somebody asked me that in Quora. You guys know Quora? Way to answer online questions and get your name out a little bit more. So how many people, somebody asked me today, what do you do during a boring meeting? Anybody want to offer? What do you do during a boring meeting? And don't say, I'm drinking my tea right now, Steve.
I usually if it's a boring meeting and I'm in it, I will crack a joke just to break it up and it kind of almost tells the person that, okay, get up, baby.
And you're hoping they get the cue.
Exactly.
Somebody else says daydream, right? Somebody else says doodle, right? We do all kinds of things to keep ourselves entertained and not be able to fall asleep on that person. Unfortunately, that person doesn't seem to care enough to get better at what they do to make their meetings less boring. When you talk to somebody, just be aware. I don't care if you're talking to 500 people. I don't care if you're talking to one person. How many people have gone to a networking event and met somebody and went, hey, what do you do? And then that person spent 2 or 3 minutes telling you about their company. You've been there? What do you do during that? That's enough. Shut up. Leave me alone. You can't be rude, right? So you just patiently wait them out all the time, and you think they're going to catch the cues, right? As Wanda goes, cues on this, I can tell a joke. No, the cues are like, he's talking to me. I go, and they don't pick up on the cues. Because they don't care about you. Be aware of that. If you care about the other person, you're going to see when their gaze drifts. You're going to see when they lose that attention span. And that's important for you to know, because it simply means you've been talking too long. Anybody here, after you've had a conversation, walk away and go, oh crap, I spoke way too much during that conversation, right? And so that's important to understand when you realize when we go in someplace to network or to conduct business, we have to be aware that we need to be asking questions of the people around us. We need to look at somebody and say, hey, what do you do for a living, right? How long you been doing it? Then we ask, because people ask, it's on that Quora again, they ask, what do you do to stop a conversation from being boring? It's real simple, ask them stuff about themselves. So many people I talk to say, I don't know how to have a conversation. Sure you do. Ask questions and care about the person you're going to be talking to. If you go into a sales meeting, how many people are in sales here? Everybody better raise their hand. All right? If you go into a sales meeting, what's the first thing you do? You ask about them. What's the second thing you do? You ask more about them. What's the third thing you do?
Listen.
Ask more about them. That's right. Listen. That's a really good point, right? But you keep asking about them in any sales meeting. You find out what their sales goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, what they want, what they need, what their desires are, what their hopes and dreams are. I was counseling with somebody about 10 months ago now. They were trying to get into a medical college. They'd already gotten out of college, then they had to pass these other things to get into the medical schools. Anybody here ever talk to anybody going into medical schools? Mm-hmm. Okay? It's hard to get into the ones you want. There's a couple that you can get into as long as you're pretty smart. They were struggling. They said, I really want to get into this one. I said, well, how many have you been to and talked to? They said, I've already talked to 2 and they didn't seem interested. I said, well, tell me about it. And she said, what do you mean? I went, well, tell me how, like, do they ask you questions when you go in for this interview for the college? She goes, yeah. They said, why do you want to go to this college? And she says, and then I tell them this. I said, what do you tell them? And she went into this little diatribe, 3 or 4 minutes about her. I went, okay, we should stop. Do you want to go to this next college? She said, yes, I want to go into the college that I'm going to be interviewing next. I said, then you interview them. And she was like, I don't know if I could do that. I said, if you want in that college, you need to take control of the situation. You're going to be a doctor. They're looking for leaders. Isn't that what you look for in your doctor? You're not looking for somebody who goes, what's wrong with me, doc? Well, I'm not really sure. Let me think about it for a while. No, you want a determined doctor, right? You want somebody, this is what I see, this is what I think, this is what I hear. That's what those medical colleges are looking for.
I want house.
They want, that's right, we want house. We want house, Dr. House. And so I told her, go in with that positivity, go in with interviewing them, and we practiced that for about 5 days. 2 months later, she wrote me a message and said, I got into that college. I'm like, yay. Okay? And that's what we need to understand is that people are looking for decision makers, especially in sales. They think it's them. You know that? If you ask them enough questions, you have taken control of that whole conversation and you determine if they're going to be the buyer. Is that true? Yeah, see? Sometimes we forget. And that's important. So when you're doing communication, always remember, think about what they want. Think about what they do. How do we communicate better with somebody? How many people have ever walked up and shaken hands with somebody and went, ew? Right? That was nasty. Check. Ask people the next time you shake hands, hey, how's my handshake? Right? Shake hands with people in this room before we leave today. Say, hey, how was my handshake? A 5 is best. Right? If you get a 2, work on your handshake. How many people know that you probably won't do business with somebody that you don't shake hands well with? You know how many young people I meet who don't know how to shake hands? They give you the dead fish, they give you the limp wrist. It's like, oh my gosh. Right? They give you the 3-finger squeeze. Before you can get there, they're squeezing your fingers. You're like, oh.
That goes for females too.
Right? And everybody involved. That's
Female
right.
doesn't like to be.
No, that's right. That's right.
Little butterfly. It's a handshake.
Women like a handshake, right? Now, they don't like to be squeezed, right? I'll show you how powerful I am. You ever do that? You ever shake hands with somebody and they're trying to prove themselves? Like,
Especially if you have rings on.
oh yeah. They're like,
And
ow.
then you have the germaphobes that do fist bumps.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, you know, I have to admit, I don't mind the germaphones who do fist bumps. I don't have that at all, if I know in advance. If I stick my hand out and they do this, I'm like, quit it, right? Now, if they go, I don't shake hands, right? I had somebody do that the other day. In fact, they said, I just washed my hands, so I'm not going to shake your hands. You went, great. We fist bump, no problem at all. Well, as in the old days, they had their side, the swords and everything, so they always elbowed, right?
Yeah.
Remember, they connected with an elbow. I don't care how you connect, as long as it shows that you are powerful. Don't come in weak. When you make eye contact, you make good eye contact, you stare them down, right? Keep looking at them, you're like, that's creepy. So you'll find there's certain ways to greet people, right? Your message when you greet them, hi, how you doing? As opposed to, hi. Right?
Confidence.
Confidence, that's what we're back to, right? So when you talk to people, the communication part is really important. How do you communicate your message? I work with people all the time, and I ask the question here. The words you use only account for 17% of your message. Do you know that? The words you use only account for 17% of your message. All the rest comes from everything else you do. Now, words are important, don't get me wrong. Remember the old adage, sticks and stones can hurt my bones, but names will never kill me. Words will never harm me, whatever that is. Well, we found out that's just the opposite, isn't it? I'd rather have a broken arm when I'm 12 than have a girl making fun of me, calling me bad names, and crushing my ego. Right? How many people have had their egos crushed a few times in their lives? Some people never get over it. Do you know that? Have you met them? I work with people all the time. That's one of the things I do with my relationship stuff, is work with people whose egos were crushed and they never got over it. So you're trying to constantly pull them out of their, oh, woe is me. You didn't have the parents I had. You didn't have the wife or husband I had. You didn't have all the bad breaks I had. Oh, woe is me. Right? So you try and teach them. You try and show them how their lives can be better. But the important part of that is when we talk about communicating, what sets you apart from everybody else when you talk to people? Right? Your body language. Right? You ever meet somebody who like this? Right? Yeah. Confidence. No, I don't think so. Like, I always ask the question, when you enter a room, what's your theme song? What plays in your head when you walk into a room? So if you were walking into a room of virtual strangers, 40, 50, 100 people, and everybody sees the door open and they always turn up and look, do you walk in the room going, whoa, right? Or do you walk in going, I got this? What song plays in your head? Because I always teach my people, find a theme song. Mine is Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Right? Know that song? No, I don't walk in like John Travolta, because that's silly, right? But I walk in with that in my head, raises me up, gives me confidence to walk into that room. And so if you understand that people perceive you a certain way. Now, the words do count. So if I said, right, your beauty is timeless, she goes, that's nice. But if I said, your face could stop a clock, same message, right? Isn't it? Same message, different words, right? Just like I teach people all the time. Do you think actors and actresses got to be superstars because they don't know exactly what their face is doing? You've heard of the actor's workshop, the actor's studio, when they go out to Hollywood or they go out to LA or they go to New York, the actor's studio. And the reason for that is so they can learn what makes them successful. How many times have you had somebody say, what's wrong? And there was nothing wrong. Right? How many times have you had somebody say, are you feeling okay? And you were feeling just fine. Because we do things with our face. How many people know? How many people? I play with my face every day. No, I don't like that. No, but I look in the mirror. Anybody do that? In the mirror all the time. I used to do it a lot. Now I do it less. Right? But it's, what does your eyebrows do? Right? Does one eyebrow work? How about two eyebrows? Right? How about your nostrils? Do they flare? How about your ears? When I get mad at people, I do this.
Like a dogger.
Right?
Yeah.
And those little things make a difference in how people perceive you. Right? I've got a half smile. How many people have a half smile? Here it is. I have a whole smile too. Here it is.
No.
But if you know what your face does, if you're aware of it, a lot of times you'll be talking to somebody and you want to give them your powerful face, not your weak face. And the only way you know those differences are when you look in the mirror and know what your powerful face does versus what your weak. And sometimes it's just a look. What is it? What's that? There was that show, Zoolander. What was his look? Anybody know that? Blue steel. Blue steel. Remember that now? Because he would go, and then they'd say, well, what's your other look? And then he said, like, my new one is ice.
It was the same
It
look.
was the same look, that's right. That's what was cool about it. He only had one look and he thought it was so amazing, right? What I ask you to do is, next time you get up to speak, next time you go to talk, don't just practice the words you have. We all are, one of a speaker's greatest opportunities to be on a TEDx stage. And as many times as I've tried to be on a TEDx, so you have to submit your video, you have to do this, and every time you learn. And what you learn is that they don't just evaluate you on your words, they don't evaluate you on your message. They evaluate you on how you stand, how you talk, how you move, right? If you say, oh, wow, was that exciting, right? They don't want you to go, oh, wow, that was exciting. They want you to go, oh, wow, that was exciting. And when you start to understand, they want an actor on the TEDx stage. And yet when you watch so many of the TEDx videos, nobody there seems to be acting, do they? Because they're so good and so smooth at what they do. I want you to understand that that's how good you have to be when you go in for your sales presentation, your sales pitch, if that's what you want to call it. You have to be in control of every aspect of your body so that the other person doesn't know that you're in control of that situation. Does that make sense? When you talk, I want you to talk that you're always in control. And don't let anything stop you. Okay? So the thing I want you to understand is, when you're talking, a lot of times people get interrupted. If you get interrupted while you're talking, stop talking. Let them have whatever is going on here. If this person dropped the plate and a big crash happened, I shouldn't keep talking, right? I should stop talking, pause, let it happen. That makes sense. And then go back to what I was talking about. Example here. We had somebody squirt some ketchup, it probably was. Everybody hear it? It went. Now, yeah, it was so good. Now, we thought it was sandy for a second, but we decided it wasn't. And so, what I want you to understand is you go with the flow, but always allow for interruptions, always allow for things to happen. All right? Next time you go out and speak, just remember, Steve Sapato, the most famous, unfamous speaker in America, damn fine business coach. All right, any questions for me on what we're doing?
What you were saying earlier about facial expressions and your body language, it makes so much sense because my biggest fear is having to make a sale over the phone.
Oh.
I so want to be in front of the people so they can see my excitement, my compassion, my drive to, this is why you need this. Over the phone, I'm like, oh my gosh.
See,
They're in
now,
Canada and I've got to sell this over the phone. This is so hard. And I have to change, my voice really has to portray
that's right.
my body language, and it's so hard to do that. But
Anybody been on the phone and have, like your boss when you were first learning, say, smile when you're on the phone, they'll feel it?
Yeah.
Right? Smile when you're on the phone, they will feel it, and that's because, as Jeff just said, when we talk on the phone, we have to change everything to show all the stuff they can't see. I am Steve Sapato. My motto is the most famous, unfamous speaker in America and damn fine business coach.